When you can still get Domino's fucking pizza over in New Jersey, but you can't get a gun, guess what you got going, brother? Martial law.
Yeah.
Dress it any way you
it's
want.
very interesting to something obviously has occurred with Trump, because he seemed to 180 all of a sudden, not just from the virus wasn't that bad to it is that bad to now all of a sudden, no, we're back in 2 weeks, Easter, it's all good. And while everyone else is like, no, bro, it's not, so it's very, very interesting to see the United States government dealing with a pandemic with kind of two narratives diametrically opposing each other.
And just to point out real quick before you answer that, I had mentioned Cuomo slipped up the other day and said in his press conference, my daughter's really upset because she's stuck with me for months.
Oh, it's not even slipping up.
There it is. There it is.
Months.
Just let the cat out of the bag.
Pat, let me tell you right now that the reason you're seeing two stories right now is because everything's already been decided. All right, I can't tell you the number of people that have already sent me their letters for paperwork for essential services. Once the military is fully in place, then you're going to see that essential services are going to be stripped back even further. But let me show you how much information is really being controlled. For instance, in New York right now, they've got makeshift morgues set up, military style, outside of hospitals. Obviously, this is not a headline. Why? Because they're managing information. De Blasio, as much as I don't like him, why is he being the most honest? Because he knows he's going to be hit first. And any way he wants to dress it, it's going to be full-on military in the streets, martial law. For instance, one of the things that was trending today was "Buy Jackie Chan." Why was that trending? Had nothing to do with Jackie Chan. It was a group of police officers trying to disband a group of 5 or more on New York City and being unable to do so. Well, that's going to change rather rapidly when it's either the National Guard or the Army. So how are they doing it slow style? And de Blasio...
We've received information that the Marines have also already been deployed.
Yeah, and you would be 100% right on that, and it's unfortunate.
And the specific tag and caption was, "My husband's leaving." He said it's going to be like Iraq, 12 to 14-hour, 16-hour shifts. He'll be gone for months. And Marines, they don't guard checkpoint. I mean, they do, but they're more for patrol. So
patrol, but at the same time, let's talk about the synthesis of this in New York. They had cases that I confirmed all the way back in February in Niagara, in Buffalo, that they completely covered up. There's still unreported cases here in Otsego County where I live. All right. And why are they doing that? Well, first of all, with the selective testing that they started, remember those lawyers worked in the city. But instead of testing people around them in the city, what do? They tested their family first, knowing that they would come up positive and have a hot spot. New Rochelle's about 15 miles away from every containment zone you need to landlock that place, a.k.a. the Cuomo Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel, and the Washington Bridge. Now, that's also a great staging center for as you need to deploy troops down into the city before you lock it off and then afterwards. And then county by county, the infrastructure that you built will also take to the streets with the sheriff's department and the state troopers, and it will be more manageable than the panic that's going to ensue in the city. Because right now, they're doing the best to not have prison riots at Rikers and other places. In fact, another thing that's not being reported, and you can watch it, was a prison break in Washington State where the madness is going on, and 14 people jumping the fence. In fact, YouTube made that tweet unavailable to my audience yesterday. So they're already managing information. We have never seen the type of actual panic and chaos that's going to happen in this country. Disease or not, the wheels are in motion, man.
I will say it for the umpteenth time as we've been grinding out content this week, man. Look at how people are doing each other in stores over water and hand sanitizer while everybody's belly's still full and still living somewhat comfortably. That's going to be, chipped away at very, very slowly but surely. And the architecture, like we've said, has been set up as far as the military presence. Imagine in a few weeks the social impact, no checks coming in, nothing's open, you know what I mean? And if they keep hyperinflating the freaking economy, the dollars they do give us aren't going to be worth shit. It's just, I don't see it how, in any way, shape, or form, how this couldn't be. It's, it'll get worse before it gets better, obviously, but how dark and bad it's going to get.
This
go ahead.
tells me it's a war.
Well, they're talking about war. They're saying Rosie the Riveter. All right, let's go back to what you said a couple months. if you watch those press conferences, it's not a couple months. You could, in fact, if you watch my videos, I put up the graphic. They say 2, 4, 6, maybe 9 months. Now, maybe not the entire country is going to be under lock for 9 months, but you have to understand when they've put out projections, right, of 40 to 70% of the population becoming infected, right? And well, they'll never test that many, but that infected. Well, you're talking about what? You're talking about way more people in New York that live on top of one another being infected. Forget 40 to 70%. You're talking probably, 60 to 90% of those people are going to become infected. You're going to overrun the systems there. They're already building hospitals out of Stony Brook, Westchester. Those are SUNY dorms, okay, and campuses. The Javits Center, and I forget what the fourth one is right now. In fact, they did one of the press conferences from the Javits Center. Those are going to take 3 weeks alone to retrofit. So that should let you know this isn't over in April. And de Blasio is saying this is going to bleed into the rest of the country. The paperwork I'm getting are from railway people that are going to be going throughout the country. All right. The other thing is, and while we talk about the military, I think this is really important. Even in my little area, about 10 miles away by the Baseball Hall of Fame where there ain't many people, in March, they were doing Apache helicopter National Guard drills. They were doing them a week and a half before over here in LA. And if you want to get a really good look at what they're actually doing, is they're going through rural type residential neighborhoods. I'll turn that off. And pulling over what? American citizens, taking their weapons, as you can see here. Okay, you're going to see the weapons strip. And then the really bad boys, those aren't Arabs firing guns at the military. And there they are lined up. You'll see the drop zones later on into like Costco and Walmart, like parking lots. This happened in North Carolina. So to say the military isn't prepared, unfortunately, to take on the American people, they've been doing these type of drills for years. And I think the right type of quote unquote pandemic and the fact that they're fresh on these drills where they're firing automatic weapons in parking lots, well, who knows where it goes from here. I pray and hope that it doesn't get as dark as that. But, I mean, what happens when they say you have to take a vaccine? And that's
what I'm saying, man. That's a huge red line for a lot of people. And going back to what you just said about the military, Pat, I think sent me this, trains in San Diego. I mean, I understand Hummers if you're going to do this. I'm not saying I understand that it's okay, but Bradley tanks? Like, why are we needing?
Yeah, Bradley fighting vehicles, some M1 Abrams. There's scenes of trains moving all over the place. Now, some military will have told me, said, hey, we were planning maneuvers in Europe and war games in Europe, and so they're bringing the stuff back home. But there's, also, of course, the Germans are moving a lot of equipment around, things like that. But it seems like a great way to explain it in my mind. You know what I mean? So.
Well, think about this, Pat. Remember the big announcement that we were going to get out? We were finally going to get some combat troops out of Afghanistan right before this hit the fan. You have to wonder if those people coming home are going to be redeployed to the American streets.
I wouldn't doubt it. And one gentleman who's a friend of mine sent me a message on Facebook when he saw one of the videos that I sent him of military equipment being moved around and also a line of Hummers, and you've seen it, the line of Hummers going up I-55 in Illinois towards Chicago. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He sent me this message, and that's all he'd say. And he said, this is all I can say is massive military operation won't take long. And that, I go, whoa, bro, on domestic soil, no.
Well, that's the thing. How many of these rights are we going to get back? And for instance, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos in Belgium of the drones that are now populating the streets with infrared cameras and microphones telling people to go. That could never happen in America, except for it already has in California and is being deployed there as
downtown
well.
LA. Do you think those have? I mean, they probably obviously have cameras. Do you think there's some facial recognition going on with some of that software and those things?
I mean, facial recognition can run either
I've got
live
a great shotgun
or.
to shoot those down, though. I hope they come here.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Jason?
I said that can run either live or after the fact. Remember, facial recognition is kind of just based on imagery anyway. So whether it's real time or not, it certainly could be used for that after the fact. How high def are those cameras? I mean, I ran a bar before I was doing this again full time, and we had some pretty great cameras for a few $100. So I would imagine they're pretty decent. The other thing about this is, why aren't we talking about real solutions? We're talking about the hydrochloroquine and the chloroquine, but why aren't we, for instance, everybody's talking about this nationalization, and taking over already built factories, but then they want to retrofit these other places for hospitals. Why didn't we immediately get the National Guard into motion to retrofit all the factories that are closed in America? You go to Michigan alone, and you probably have a good working place where you can start manufacturing not only tests, but masks and even possibly ventilators, which seems to be the big thing that's not there in Italy, not there in Spain for these people dying on the ground.
Supply,
and yet we're not doing that. And we're also not saying, let's catch it early and deploy something like vitamin C intravenously that's already been peer reviewed. We got somebody in New York featuring this, and I'm hoping this goes as viral as the hydrochloroquine. But there's already been peer-reviewed studies in February on this, and if it's caught early, these people do a lot better than the people that don't get it. And obviously, Pat, the better your immune system is, the less likely you're going to be infected by any type of virus.
Sure. And, with this, having had our scientist friend on, George Pardos, we talked initially early on in this whole thing about the Neanderthal gene being something that the more you had of it, the more resilient you were going to be against this particular virus. And he walked away from that a little bit, but we came back to it because the statistics in Germany show that for a huge number of people that have been infected in Germany, they have a low mortality rate, which says that they have a very high Neanderthal gene over there. And so it's very interesting, right? And he also leaned towards it being created in a lab because of that.